Our David Hammer investigation, Losing Faith, has told the stories of several people who allege they were abused by priests when they were children. They all question how the Archdiocese of New Orleans is investigating their claims.
But tonight, David and our partners at the Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate detail a case where the church paid a settlement and closed the case without even starting a formal investigation.
As a kid in the 1970s and 80s, Mark Vath looked up to his father's cousin, Paul Calamari. Calamari was the principal at St. John Vianney Prep, then was ordained as a priest in 1980. How old were you the first time that he violated you?
The first time I remember, probably the age of 7. That's the earliest I remember.
And how long did it last, these kinds of encounters?
Until I was probably 13 or 14.
And these were not just molestation, this was actual, you were violated?
Absolutely.
As a mother, I feel very guilty. I didn't protect my child.
Mark's mother, Lana Vath, says her son suffered with substance abuse and anger issues for decades. She didn't know why, but she believes she found the answer in 2016. That's when Mark's aunts told them about a history of abuse on the Calamari side of their family.
I started thinking a little bit, and some flashbacks started coming. Paul's face, right in front of mine. That came back. I brought my allegation and met with the Archbishop 5 or 6 times. I guess establishing credibility, David.
Within a month, the Archdiocese lawyer at the time, Wendy Vitter, sat down with Vath and agreed to pay him a settlement. 2 months after paying Mark Vath's settlement, Archbishop Amond released a list of 57 clergymen who were credibly accused of sexually abusing minors. At the top of that list was Paul Calamari. But the entry for Calamari was based on a different accusation made against Calamari in 2003. And a 2019 lawsuit shows there's at least a third person who alleges Calamari sexually abused him too. The Archdiocese says it first received a complaint about abuse by Calamari in 1996, but it was an anonymous letter, and the Archdiocese says it could not be further investigated or corroborated at that time.
The bishop doesn't have an option on this, but a lot of them think they do. They play around with it.
Tom Doyle is an expert in church law who has advised a lawyer who's helping Vath. Doyle said for too long, bishops improperly ignored anonymous claims of abuse. The church confirmed Calamari was sent to a psychiatric treatment center in Pennsylvania in 1997, but had his full priestly faculties restored in Delaware in 1999. He wasn't removed from public ministry until 2003, and Calamari continued to receive his pension until this year. Vath wanted to know what the Archdiocese did to pursue his claim against Calamari. Directed by an attorney, Vath recorded a phone call with Vicar General Pat Williams, who oversees investigations for the Archdiocese of New Orleans.
So is it fair to say that my allegation was considered credible because of the settlement?
I guess in my estimate, that certainly we would not have offered a settlement if something that we didn't believe. It's not like we just, let's see if we can, offer a settlement to make this end.
Archbishop Amond recently sent Vath a letter saying, quote, "The formal penal process begins after an allegation is determined to have some semblance of truth." But in the same letter, Amond acknowledges he did not appoint Father Williams to lead a preliminary investigation of Vath's claim against Calamari until this August, almost 2 years after the Archdiocese paid Vath's settlement.
So the Archdiocese paid me for the claim against Paul without any review board or private investigator questioning me or Paul.
Well, certainly you would know that they didn't question you, and I do not believe there was, other than perhaps the Archbishop, a conversation with Paul.
That's negligence.
Doyle says the Archdiocese must investigate all claims, and if they're deemed credible, they must be reported to Rome for a potential church trial, no exceptions.
They've got to look into the accusation and the sources of possible proof, just like a grand jury does. And then they return an indictment and they, boom, it goes over to the Holy See, and they decide whether they're going to pursue or who's going to pursue a canonical prosecution.
I think we reported all of the priests who we made public and we took discipline action against. It was a reporting. I don't believe then it was not a request of Rome to do anything, because they wouldn't do anything without us saying that there was a crime committed.
The New Orleans Archdiocese says a directive from the Vatican this past July clarified that it needed to investigate claims against living priests. But Doyle says the obligation to investigate claims against all priests, living and dead, has been clear in church law since 1917.
Because a lot of bishops say, well, if it's an unsigned letter, we throw it away. If it's an anonymous report, we throw it away. This thing said, no way, Jose. You have to investigate everything.
Last month, Pope Francis removed a bishop in Poland after a documentary called Playing Hide and Seek came out. The film alleges Bishop Edward Janiak knew about abuse claims against one of his priests for at least 3 years and didn't report them to Rome until after criminal charges were filed against the priest.
I suspect that Archbishop Amond is probably one of a great number of archbishops around the world who are getting a little nervous now because they saw what the Pope just did.
Now, the New Orleans Archdiocese is in U.S. bankruptcy court, a process that's blocked dozens of abuse lawsuits from moving forward and barred any new abuse claims from being filed after March 1st, 2021. David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
That bankruptcy case has also stopped Amond, Calamari, and others from having to testify under oath. But just this week, Judge Meredith Graybill ruled against the church and said that Calamari's accusers can now take sworn testimony from him. David spoke to Calamari on the phone, but he directed the comment on vast allegations, saying he was still reviewing them and would respond to them in court.